Emily for all the fun stuff. I am going to have it try to transcribe captions as well, just to make it accessible if possible.
Okay, that sounds perfect.
It actually makes it work. And then I am going to start admitting some of our guests.
Yeah, okay, great.
Perfect. And yes, we will be starting our author workshop with author Suri Chan here momentarily. We are just getting in to settle in for now. And here's layout. Okay. So I am going to have Suri on Spotlight so we can see you and have a great time. And yeah, we should be starting here momentarily. Also love the outfit. I love
thank you so much.
frills.
Yeah, it's like it's so comfortable, but it just gets stuck on everything. So like it's not really practical for like daily wear.
But it is so fun.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. I have it recording already, Emily. I have it set to where Suri is the spotlight, so people coming in shouldn't be kicking her video off for the recording. And then yeah, saving to my Google Drive because we're in my account. But here you go.
And are you able to get on like another computer and admit people, or should I be doing that?
I think that most people are coming in, but there is like an admit all people, and it'll show a box up here when more people join.
Okay.
So you just hit admit all. Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Sorry, we just had the best book club, all about your book.
Oh, did you? Oh, I love that. I love that.
All right, I'm going to pull the notes open on my phone. We'll just give it a couple minutes for more people to come in, and then we'll get started. But yeah, we really, really enjoyed. Oh, and my water bottle is looking a little better.
Oh, that's so cute.
Stickers.
That's so cute.
We love your stickers.
I have like a bunch of stickers here. Yeah. I'll show them to you guys later.
So fun. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll be getting going here soon. We're just giving everyone a chance to join the meeting. Thanks, Arna. What have you been up to today?
So today, I was actually just sort of at home and I was like drinking tea, and I actually just woke up recently because I'm currently overseas and it's like morning over here. So yeah, so I'm just starting my day. Yeah. So currently, like I'm in Australia at the moment. So yeah, so it's like evening on that side, and yeah, so here it's a morning. So
my son is on a school trip in Japan right now, so it's morning for him as well.
Oh, is he? Yeah, that must feel so like strange.
Yeah.
When you're like ending the day and then he's starting the day. Yeah.
It's very confusing, like when to text him. So
yeah, for sure.
He is over 6 feet tall. So he sent me a picture of himself with his hand right here touching the top of the shower.
That is so funny. Japan is actually perfect for me because I'm like under 5 feet. So like nothing hits my head and everything just fits. So yeah. So it's like the total opposite for me. But yeah, my friends, when they go to Japan, they like they whack their heads on everything. They have to like bend down in the shower. It's really funny.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, let's get started. So we
Okay.
have some of our audience here in the room, and then we have several more people online. Thank you to everyone. Good luck, Jessica, with that job in Japan. I just really appreciate everyone joining us and supporting both this amazing author and our local bookstore. My name is Emily. I'm the owner of A Seat at the Table Books. We're here in Elk Grove, California, bookstore, cafe, and community hub. And I have several of my book club members here. We just had the most amazing conversation around Suri's book, and it fostered a real strong sense of community for us and opened up a lot of conversations for us. So thank you for making that possible. And I'd love to hear your introduction.
I love that because as a poet, I feel like that's what I strive to do. Like whenever someone reads my book and they say, you know, they connect or they come across my account and they say that they just relate, that's like, that makes me feel so good because that's actually why I do what I do. And I published my book around the world with, no connections and no writing degree. And today I'll be talking about my process from like pre-writing to ideation to drafting and post-writing. And these tips, I actually use them all myself. So it's like not easily like something you can like find on Google or that sort of thing. And I wrote this book because I was really frustrated with empowerment culture. It felt really shallow and dishonest. And it was like, I was thinking like, I don't feel empowered. Can I say that? And this book is about honoring all your feelings. And instead of constantly becoming better and more beautiful, like it suggests that maybe we can just be. And any books you order through the store will come with free pins designed by me. I'm not sure if you can see them. So yeah. And also like sticker packs that I also designed. So this is like the most popular one. It's like a cake one with different like angry slogans. And this one and this one is the gay one.
Amazing.
And this one's an Asian one.
Online now.
And it says angry Asian girl in the chili. And this one is like the book specific pack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. You really went above and
Thank you so
beyond
much.
with those. And when we're done here, I'll drop that link in the chat again, but it's also on the Eventbrite. So please shop local with us or your local indie bookstore, but we have this very cool swag for you. So we're at aseatatthetablebooks.org. A lot of A's and T's, but you can also Google Elk Grove Bookstore because we're the only one. And then you can order that book from us and we'll include the swag. So thank you for providing that, Suri. Let's get started with your writing tips.
Yeah. So my first step is that you have to believe you have a story to tell. This sounds really simple, but a lot of people actually don't really think about this actually. So this is actually the first step. And so basically I'm going to talk about the concept of a writer, like what is a writer? And so many people have said to me that they don't have the experience or they're not that kind of person. And this is controversial, but I feel that if you feel called to write, you're a writer. So writing is about expressing ideas and feelings, and you don't need like a wide vocab or a creative writing degree to do that. And the technical stuff is really important, but I personally feel it's secondary, and words are simply tools, and having a bigger toolkit definitely helps, but please don't let the size of your toolkit define you, because you own the toolkit, not the other way around. So that's like really important to remember.
You're getting a lot of snaps in here, Suri. We're very excited about what
I love that. I love that. And something people always tell me is, what if I don't have anything interesting to say? And this, honestly, this breaks my heart, honestly, because everyone has a story to tell. And even if your life is boring, I can assure you that you can find someone that will resonate with what you have to say, because my life is actually really boring. So, and I still have stuff to, write and yeah, so everyone has a story to tell, seriously. I believe that with every fiber of my being. And even if you are like 18 years old and you still live with your parents in a small town, you can really write impactful poetry still. Because as long as you're honest and vulnerable, there will always be someone who's going to read what you write and say, oh, I relate to that. Me too. And I feel like we're all connected by the thread of our universal human experiences. Like everyone can write poetry, everyone is a poet, and everyone is a poem. You just need to be able to feel and observe, and to be alive is like really beautiful and deep in itself. And the boring parts of your day are like bursting with like color and richness and something may seem perfectly ordinary on the surface, but you just need to like get to the juicy underbelly of it and dig out the poetry, basically. So does anyone have any questions about that part of the process?
Shay wants everybody is a poem and a sticker. We love that.
Yeah, I
And
should actually make that on a cake or something. I should.
in book club, it did come up, that a lot of us do want to write poetry and feel like we can't. So you just fully addressed a conversation you weren't here for. I'm wondering what do you recommend for how do we find our poetic voice?
Yeah, I have. So let me think about that. So, me personally, I'm really motivated by FOMO and fear because I actually never planned to become an artist. I was actually working a corporate job, which is like really typical of like Asian women, especially. So, in the first few months, I was so consumed by the fear of never creating art. And I was just absolutely terrified of letting life slip by me. And I thought if I didn't do something about it, I would put it off forever. And I've always felt like an artist, like since I was really little, but I wasn't exactly sure like how I would go about it. So I feel like I was at that place at one point, but I just let the fear kind of like propel me into this journey. So I would say that honestly, how would someone find their poetic voice? Like honestly, just start with the process pretty much because I had no clue what I was doing when I first started, but it's all about just putting something out there and learning as you go. So I would say just find what motivates you, whether for me it was fear actually. So for you, it could be the desire to motivate a community or to motivate someone or the desire to create something or even FOMO, the fear of like, not ever putting your ideas out into the world because I feel like negative emotions they really get like they get a really bad like rep in society because it feels almost icky to be motivated by fear or pain and all that. But I feel like there's so much art that can be dug out from that, and you shouldn't feel ashamed of being motivated by those emotions, pretty much.
Amazing. So that's really your message in step one, to believe that we have a story.
Yeah, that's step one for
What's
sure.
step two?
And I'll go on to step two. And basically, to be a better writer, you need to be a better observer. And this is like a really important skill because the ability to find and observe like beauty in mundane details, like for example, the way a leaf looks in the sunlight or the way someone is like smiling at their phone on a train, the small details like really breathe life into a piece of writing. So honestly, like just start to learn how to observe the mundane and observe small things in life pretty much. And yeah, do you have any questions?
One of the poems that really struck me was one of the girls. And I'm wondering if you can talk about how your observer nature and the way that you sought to notice these little details in life, how that informed this poem and how you captured the layers of this queer feminine experience you really gave voice to for me in a new way.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. So I'd love to talk a little bit about that poem.
Yeah, I love that it really spoke to you because that's one of the poems that I actually wanted to scrap from the book actually last minute because I just thought it was too niche and it was too specific. So at the last minute,
Shocking noises here. What are you talking about?
so at the last minute, I just sort of I added it back into my book, and I'm really glad I did that because so many people actually approached me and they said that poem in particular, it really spoke to them. So I'm just so happy that I left it in. And yeah, so how I started writing that poem. So many gay people say that coming out feels like coming home, and I never really felt that because I was never actually trying to look straight. And so many lesbians say that it's so freeing to come out and stop pretending to fit that straight mold. And that's more power to them because like women who defy gender norms are really hot. So like power to them for sure. But I personally never tried to look straight. I was just me. And that poem, One of the Girls, I feel like it's peak lesbian femcore because it just speaks about the sheer weirdness of being femme and being too girly for gay spaces, but also too gay to be like one of the girls, if that makes sense. So my love for women is like the purest, most natural thing about me. But being femme is really, really isolating, especially in like a smaller city. And conventional queerness can be such a narrow box. And some people just don't fit that box so naturally as like, someone who's Asian and someone who's straight passing. So that was basically like the heart of that poem, basically.
And if there are any questions from those who are watching, you can just drop those in the chat and I'll ask those for you, or Suri will catch them. Does anyone here have questions? We will have them later. Another one I wanted to ask about while we see if any questions come in is the book club was really into the well of generational trauma. And I have a feeling that speaks to this observational aspect of you as well, seeing how very kind of typical lifestyle things can be turned into poetry. So I'd love to hear a little more about that one, the well of generational trauma.
Yeah, so in that poem, I kind of position generational trauma as like a well that my family drank from for generations. And no one realizes the water is toxic because everyone is just too busy pouring water for the next gen. And it's this concept of just being so stuck in your ways and stuck in that cycle that you don't realize, it's unhealthy and you don't realize how to break out from it, basically. And that's a poem that really resonates a lot with like fellow cycle breakers and people who are the first in their line to do something new. So that's going to resonate with lots of like queer people and people of color. And when I was on my book tour, around different cities, lots of people actually, they told me that one spoke to them in particular. I feel like because my audience is really, really queer and there are lots of people of color. So that's something that, we all have in common pretty much. And that poem actually just came to me as a series of images. I was just like, I think I was in the shower or something and it just like popped into my head. And it was just like I just saw these images of like a well and like water and just sort of like kind of like in old times, basically, when everyone was just I kind of pictured my family in medieval clothing and sort of just gathering around a well. And that was the series of images that started that poem pretty much. And it's interesting because, sorry?
We're loving that here. A lot of good sounds from the audience.
Oh, I love that. And I feel like that is a really interesting segue into my next section of the writing workshop, because most of my best poems, they just kind of come to me. They just kind of like slap me in the face. So I will start talking about that pretty much in the next section.
And we do have two questions in the chat that I think might be addressed later. So I'm going to read them now and you can decide whether you answer them now or later. One is, do you have any advice for getting comfortable with presenting those vulnerable thoughts as art? And the second is asking if you'll read one of your favorite poems and describe what motivated you for that poem. So I think we'll be getting to that a little later. And then AJ said they feel that you have a visual, picturesque style with poetry.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. And I can actually read the well poem now, actually. So I'll read part of it. So this poem has a drawing next to it.
We love your illustrations. Those mattered a lot to us. They made the book a lot more accessible to those of us who feel like we have a harder time with poetry. They really gave us a point.
I love that. So this one is called The Well of Generational Trauma. My parents drank from the well. There was no baptism or ceremony. Where I lived, the poison was in the water. I held my breath as they dunked my head in, told me to drink, told me it would be good for me. Our bloodline is tainted because well-meaning elders with loud voices and sharp hands never question what they should have. Grandma worries about what's under the plaster when the poison is in our veins. Yeah, and it's much longer than that. So that's just a snippet. And so that's a poem that just kind of hit me in the face. And like I said, all my best ideas, they just come out of nowhere and they hit me at the most random moments. And then it's up to me to kind of like put the scattered pieces of them together, basically. I feel like that's my whole job as a writer, to take the pieces of an emotion or an experience and kind of assemble them into a poem. And that's the main work, I think. And how do you try this for yourself, basically? Basically, there's a process for it. You need to get your mind into the right state for the ideas to flow. And step one, basically, of this ideation process is to empty all the unnecessary details. So basically, like, file all the boring tasks away so they're not like clogging up your subconscious. And I basically set phone alarms for important chores. So my mind is like really, really free, because I've noticed that when I'm not bogged down by all the boring stuff, that's when the creative ideas flow. And it's all about like not weighing yourself down by the small things, so you provide space for the big ideas to flow in. And step two is take a walk, like maybe in nature or just even on the street or just anywhere, or like take a long bath or a shower, because I honestly get my best ideas like in these spots or when I'm just trying to fall asleep. And I actually used to have a notebook and pen in the shower, but then it got really wet, so like I couldn't do that anymore. And I have a notebook and my phone like next to my head when I'm going to sleep, because I get my best ideas when I'm just falling asleep or when I'm just waking up. So I always have my notes app out, and I'm always just kind of writing stuff down as I go. So yeah, sorry. Do you have any questions? I was gonna answer one of them, but I think I missed it.
Any
What was
questions?
one of the questions? Sorry.
There was the question if some of your poems come as images, and the question about what motivated your favorite poem, and then advice for getting comfortable presenting vulnerable thoughts are the questions in the chat so far. Did you have anything? Christine has one.
I'll just make you say it to you.
Okay. How often are you writing? Are you writing a poem a day? Are you setting any kind of goals for yourself? Are you writing once a weekend? What's your schedule like?
Yeah. So I basically write in phases. So in the last few months, I actually wasn't really writing much because I was focusing more on like marketing and other sorts of work. But then recently, in the last 3 months, I just got really, really inspired, and I'm actually currently writing a new book. So yeah, so that's
We're ready.
yeah, so that's really exciting because and I feel like this is really common for writers actually to have phases where there's no output and then suddenly they just can't stop writing. So that's me right now. I just can't stop writing, which is amazing. And when I get to one of those phases where I'm not really writing as much, I always think, because I'm really dramatic, so I always think like I'm never going to write again. And I feel like this is common among writers, but honestly, as an artist or as a writer, like it's really normal to exist in phases and have kind of phases of downtime. And yeah, so don't beat yourself up for not creating like kind of on schedule. So that's basically what I do. I try to go with when I feel inspired, basically. But there are other times where I really need to write new poems for Instagram to keep up my Instagram page. And I basically force myself to sit down and write for that pretty much. And yeah, I do definitely have a schedule. So I basically take about 3 days of my week to write or tend to my Instagram or marketing or author brand pretty much. So yeah, so I feel like as a writer, it's really important to have discipline and stay consistent, because that's a huge part of the process pretty much. And oh yeah, that question about how I'm vulnerable in an online space or just in any space. Honestly, the best tip for that is to just block everyone you know on social media. Just have a blank Instagram page or TikTok or blank social media page. Pretty much block every single person you know, because that really gets rid of like that self-consciousness. And I feel like as a writer or as an artist, it's really important to not get in your head and just not um, get stuck down by self-consciousness pretty much. So block everyone you know, get a fake name. And yeah, that's basically what I did. So Suri is actually a fake name.
Amazing. Amazing. That is a great insider piece of information for us. Did you get any really good advice from other writers about writing that you want to share?
I did actually. So poetry is very musical and there's a lot of like rhythm to it. And when I was in New York for my book tour last year, I got this really good tip from a local poet, and they said they read their poetry to themselves like out loud, and it like really, really helps with flow. And I've never actually done that, but I've started to do it now with my new book, and it's really, really helpful. So that's like a really important tip, to read something aloud to yourself, and also to maybe leave something and come back to it later with like a fresh set of eyes, pretty much. And now I'll open it to one or two audience questions to like break things up. So does anyone have anything they want to ask?
AJ had asked in the chat, do some of your poems start as images and then become poems?
Oh, for sure. I feel like, honestly, most of my best poems, they just hit me in the face as a set of images because I'm a really visual person. Because starting off, like, I always saw myself as a kind of artist, like not necessarily a writer, but writing is just something that came naturally to me. Because when I was thinking about, I've always just wanted to tell stories. So, but I can't sing and I can't dance and I can't act. So writing was something that I could easily do alone in my room. Yeah, pretty much with no production crew. So that's so with most of my poems, they pretty much start as images, and then I piece them together and I construct them as words, pretty much.
We also had a question. How did you decide how to organize the book? Did you start with the structure and write poems for the structure? Or did you write all your poems and then curate them as you saw themes emerge?
Oh, that's a really good question. So basically, a bunch of the poems from the book were poems that I wrote a while ago. And I put them into the collection because I wanted to give them a home. And how I structured them. So in the first section, it's called Soft. So that is basically like a section on the theme of like being open, emotionally vulnerable, and really just sort of open. And the second section is called like Hungry. So that's a section on like female desire. And it's really like kind of embarrassing and taboo in society to be like, oh, like I want something, like I want like either love or like a big career or like anything. It's really kind of like shameful to say that because like in our culture there's this kind of like thing where we want to show that we don't really care. So this section, Hungry, is about just kind of owning what we want and what we crave. And I feel like we're too old to give a shit pretty much about showing that we care because that feels really, really high school to me. So I feel like as women especially, it's really, really important to own up to our hunger. And the third section is like called Messy. So it's like it basically goes on about like complex emotions and like messiness. And the fourth is this chapter about the patriarchy and existing as a woman in the world. And the last section is new. Basically, it's kind of emerging from trauma as like a brand new person. Like not necessarily better or more beautiful, but just different and changed, if that makes sense.
Any other audience questions? I see AJ is asking, you said that the words and poems come to you and AJ feels like their muse comes at random times. So do you have any advice on how to summon the muse when you need to practice poetry or do other, writing for a deadline?
Oh, for sure. Like, it's kind of like what I said earlier. So what I do is I just, whenever I have writer's block, the best and quickest fix for me is to honestly just go outside and go on a long walk with my phone. But I don't touch my phone. I just leave it in my pocket and I just let the ideas come to me. And I stop thinking about the writing, basically. Because honestly, the quickest way to writer's block for me is to just stare at a blank page and to think about the writing because then you're too like, you're just too stuck in that process. And yeah, so what I do is I just sort of, I think about something else and I just look at nature and I just look outside and I just people watch and I just kind of like get into that flow state. And then the ideas just hit me pretty much. So that's my quickest way out of writer's block. Just, it sounds like so strange, but just stop writing and just start doing something else, basically.
Beautiful. Now, it sounds like most of these poems in this collection came to you that way. I'm wondering what your three favorites are, and maybe if you'd be willing to read one of them for us.
Yeah, for sure. So my three favorites are The Well of Generational Trauma, which I've already read. And it's also A Bull, a Mantis, and a Gay Girl Walk into an Asian Restaurant. And also I'm Not Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And that one talks about the idea of like the superwoman trope and the idea that like a conventionally attractive, like thin woman can kind of destroy the forces of evil. And that's really empowering. And I love Buffy, but it's also not really realistic because I feel like if a regular woman was cornered in a dark alley, like she would probably die, unfortunately. So that's like, I just feel it's just not really realistic, unfortunately. So I can read that for you.
And book club loved that one.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So I'll read a section of that. So this one's called I Am Not Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Okay, so Buffy was 16, blonde, doe-eyed, which is to say those writers took the most consumable girl and made her a stake-wielding hero. Pried her out of people's jaws so she could stand for all of us, fight for all of us. Except she is not one of us. She's a projection of all the girls who walk with keys cutting into their palms, the girls who never stood a chance. The truth is, the world is a dangerous place for girls like us. On TV, bad people turn out to be demons defeated with a spell or a kick. The demons in real life always turn out to be people, a clingy ex, a shadowy man walking a little too close. They say the scariest part of Buffy was when she faced those skeletal figures with metallic teeth. I think the scariest part was the episode where she loses her powers and has to walk home alone, which is to say the scariest monster is a boy asking for a lap dance in a dark alleyway, which is to say without her powers she is just a girl and the alleyway is a strange man's throat. Buffy eventually gets her powers back, flips her hair and turns the next monster into dust. But the truth is she's not one of us, no matter how much we want her to be. The truth is if a normal girl was cornered at the end of a dark alley, she wouldn't be able to throw a sassy punchline and make the monster disappear. The truth is, in the real world, she dies. And that's a really sad kind of poem, and it almost feels like anti-empowering, but I feel like there's a sense of empowerment there in the sense of honesty and the sense of like owning our fear, because I feel like especially now in today's world, like a lot of us are really scared, but they feel really guilty about being scared about the state of the world and the state of things basically. And I feel like honestly, if we all collectively say like this sucks, like we're scared and we're all really really like lost and we're all really confused, like that's empowering also, because we feel like we're not standing alone and we're not kind of ashamed for feeling like a smaller sort of person, because we kind of see that these are human emotions and it's really just human to feel this way pretty much. So that's basically the heart of my book and the heart of that poem.
Kristen says honesty is its own power, and we very much agree. You normalize so much of what we're going through, and you made those daily feelings and experiences okay for us. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
I know we've talked kind of generally about the experience of writing, but can we move into actually the nuts and bolts of drafting these poems? What advice do you have once we're getting down to the drafting work?
Yeah, sure. So one of my tips on that is to write first and edit later. So you need to like give yourself the freedom to pour your raw, messy feelings onto the page, like without judgment. That's part of the magic. So there's a quote from Wordsworth that basically says that poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. And what I do with that is that, and what I'm doing now with my current book is that I'm just kind of writing in a really messy way, and then I'm coming back to the page like a few days later and I'm editing basically. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. And basically with writing complex identities, like for example, like like queerness and things about culture, I use techniques like personification and extended metaphor to kind of capture the complicated experiences and emotions of that. And I have a poem in the book called A Bull, Mantis, and Gay Girl Walk into an Asian Restaurant. And as a multicultural woman of color, like my different identities are constantly like fighting for space within me. And the bull represents like the Western part of me that's really brash and it wants to scream like, take me as I am. Like, I just want to be me, and like, pretty much like no judgment pretty much. And the mantis is the Asian side that kind of like tiptoes around cultural norms, and it's like polite and quiet. And I feel like being a culturally diverse person, or even a queer person, it's a perpetual like tug of war, because you're always like fighting the different sides of you because they're often like in conflict, if that makes sense.
I love that poem so much. Would you read us a little bit from it?
Yeah, for sure. So this, it's really funny because this poem, like so many people come to me about this poem and they say they really relate and it really speaks to them. So I love that, honestly, because I feel like it's a very queer poem, but I love it when non-queer people come to it and they're like, oh, I see myself in it, because I feel like lots of even like straight people who are not people of color, they find a way to see themselves in it, and that's what I really love about poetry. It's like so universal. Okay, so I'll read part of it. How are you, my great aunt says, pouring tea from a big clay pot. She looks at me with curiosity, a wall of dim sum steamers between us. I want to tell her about the woman who broke my heart, but I know how are you means tell me how you are in the least controversial way. Her chopsticks clink against her bowl, and I'm reminded of how easily it could shatter. My dad once told me not to be a bull in a china shop. Go delicately, watch where you step. The western part of me is screaming. I want to tear through the table, turn it upside down with my horns. This is the part of me that wants chaos and blood, the part I keep hidden. My great aunt pours us more tea, and I notice the watercolor stems on the pot, how they are as thin and papery as her veins. If I let the bowl loose, it would tear right through her. Go delicately, watch where you step. How are you, she asks. I rein in the bull, pat its grizzly head. Leaning into its neck, I whisper, not every place is your battleground. Here I must move softly, an Asian mantis gliding through a China store. I've been stressed, I say, without going into detail. This is my way of being genuine while causing the least pain. The bull squirms in its seat. I picture it charging across the restaurant, shards of glass in my lap, bloodstains on the tablecloth. In a rush of panic, I check on my aunt. The bull sits quietly in a corner, breathing down her neck. Not every place is your battleground. So yeah, the full poem's in my book, and that's also a poem that just really hit me. I was just kind of walking around, and I was just kind of hit with these images of like a bull and a mantis and just me. So that's kind of the skeletal frame of that poem, and yeah, I started writing from there pretty much.
The idea of being genuine while causing the least harm, I think, is why that poem speaks to so many people.
Oh yeah,
I mean, we're all
sure.
in. And think about if you have any questions online or in store. In the meantime, I'd love to know why you think this 1, 2, and 3 walk into a bar is so timeless. Why does that work so well?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I personally feel because it's really familiar and we have the cultural context for it, so it kind of sets up the skeletal frame of the story. And I feel like humor is like also a really good technique in storytelling. And I was honestly really surprised by the amount of people who read my book and they said it was really funny. And I honestly really love that because lots of people have said the book made them cry. And that's always the best compliment. But lots of people also said it made them laugh. And that's like, honestly, my new favorite compliment, seriously. And honestly, every time I trigger emotions in a reader, I feel like I've done what I've set out to do, pretty much.
That's wonderful. Any questions from here or online? The bridge of bicultural blues was resonating with our audience.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. And I feel like, yeah, that's another poem that's about perpetually being like tugged in either side and being kind of like stuck in limbo in a cultural space or in any space. So yeah, I feel like a lot of my poems, they touch on that complexity of just kind of being confused and being kind of pulled between two worlds pretty much. And I feel like that's just the nature of being someone who's like culturally diverse and just diverse generally.
How did you choose the avatars for these different parts of yourself?
Yeah, so those kind of just hit me in the face pretty much. And do you know the concept of having like an angel and a devil on each shoulder? Yeah, so basically the bull and the mantis, they kind of symbolize one of each. And it basically talks about the concept of being like pulled in either direction and the feeling of having like an internal conflict of your Asian and Western sides just kind of sitting on each shoulder. And I'm in the middle. I'm literal because I'm myself and I'm in the middle, kind of like torn between the two. And it kind of conveys how my identities constantly compete for space within me, and they're constantly like pulling me on either side, like that angel versus devil kind of concept, pretty much. And I'm not saying either one is an angel, either one's a devil, but it's kind of they're both kind of the angel and the devil at different points, pretty much.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mags is saying for the multicultural kids was one of their favorites, even though it was one of the shorter ones.
Thank
and
you.
Brianna is saying or asking, can you talk about how you were able to be so vulnerable knowing family and friends may not react well? I know you mentioned blocking people, but you can't block them from the book. So how did you put this out there knowing your family might read it?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So I am lucky in that sense because I'm a first-gen immigrant. So pretty much all my family members, they live in Southeast Asia. So I go by a different name there, my birth name. So most of them, the vast majority of them, they have no clue who Suri is. And it's actually in bookshops in Southeast Asia too, in Kinokuniya. And it's funny because they go there and they don't even know my book is there because they don't know who Suri is. And recently, my half sister on my mom's side, she recently, because she's a bit younger, so she's seen my Instagram and what I do, and she basically started taking photos of my book and sharing it in the family chat with my mom. And my mom got so fucking angry because she didn't like how I was talking about like generational trauma and queerness, because queerness in particular, something funny she said to me was like, why are you putting all this gay stuff out there? You're gonna attract lesbians. But I'm like, maybe that's the point. So she literally said that to me, and she was like, stop doing that because all the lesbians are gonna like flock to your page. But I'm like, that's what I want. So
Stop. No. All right. Can you talk us through the rest of your drafting process? And then we have a good question from AJ at the end of that.
yeah, I can. So with the drafting process, one thing I do is I read with purpose. So basically, I read like a student, and I kind of like highlight stuff and understand techniques. So this is a really good writing tip for everyone here. So basically, read a book you really love and understand what techniques they use, and try to replicate that as an exercise, basically with your original idea or experience. And I don't usually do this. I usually kind of work with the images in my head, like I said, but this is a really, really good tip for anyone who doesn't necessarily have the images come to them. And it's a really good tip when you're stuck. And also, like, another tip is, like I said, just write like no one's watching, pretty much. And basically, and one more thing, write on topics that really call to you. And it honestly doesn't matter if it's been done a million times, because everything has been written about by now, honestly. And think about the subject of love, for example. It's been done a million different ways, and people still find novel ways to express it. And remember, like, no one has your unique voice. So that's basically what I do. I write about stuff that I'm called to write about, because when I feel forced to write about something, like, it just doesn't flow as naturally. So that's honestly, just write what you feel called to write.
So you've written all these things that are deeply important to you, that are coming from your heart. And AJ's wondering, in editing, it can feel like they're being harsh to their past self. How do you soften the effect of the edits on the part of you that wrote those poems originally?
I honestly feel that with writing, I am like coming from a really like soft, vulnerable, kind of messy creative space. And then the editor part of my brain is totally different. Like, she's really brutal, and she's actually quite like violent with like the chopping. And yeah, she's pretty much brutal. So it's like different parts of my brain. So I do embody that sort of like more logical, more sort of like aggressive side when I'm editing. So that's basically another tip, to kind of like divide yourself into different modes, pretty much.
Any audience questions? Yes. And I wonder if that was purposeful, like, did she think of that as she was writing? Notice that. You have a lot of imagery that is connected, the cages and the traps and the glasses.
Yeah.
And the jars. Did that happen organically, or were you bringing that theme in? Am I saying this right? Like, were you bringing that theme in consciously from the beginning, or did that emerge for you the way it emerged for us?
That kind of emerged organically also for me. And I feel like this book explores like various ways like that we feel trapped as women in society, and especially as like queer women and people of color. It's like there's so many like traps like set out for us. And I feel like, honestly, like in my life, a lot of the growth as an artist and as a person has been trying to break out from those traps. And I heard a quote once, and it really, really spoke to me. It basically says that as you grow, it's all about returning to yourself, returning to who you were as a child. And that's a really beautiful quote that I forgot where it's from, but that just speaks to me as a later in life queer woman, and as someone who didn't start off as an artist from a really, really young age. So yeah, it's basically been a series of escaping from a variety of different cages. So that's kind of why it's written like that. And I understand with my new book, it's basically inspired by lots of like legends and fables and all that, and kind of like wild women in history. So that's also going to be another set of like breaking out from cages. So I feel like that's a theme in my work. I
We are
think.
so ready. We're so
Oh, I
ready.
love
for
that. I
book.
love that. Yeah, I'm actually so excited about this new book. Actually, I can't wait to put it out. But honestly, with like writing and like editing and like drafting and the whole process, like it takes a long time. So because typically like a book, like you write it and then it takes a year to actually like release it, unfortunately. So but I'm just so excited, and I have all these images of like me in the forest and me in the woods in like different like kind of medieval like princess outfits, and just like, yeah, just lots of, it's gonna be really like whimsical and really like quirky, pretty much. And
That is
and it's going to be like totally different from this book in terms of the voice, the tone, the message, and everything. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm excited about that.
I love that. Any other notes on the writing process you want to share with us?
Yeah. So let's see. I think it's really important to just keep writing as much as you can. So that's a really important tip. Just write as much as you can, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of making bad art, because as an artist, you're bound to make bad art. And I feel like that self-consciousness about the bad art that you create when you start, and just at any stage, like that will actually hold you back. And I have so many like terrible, terrible drafts like in my computer somewhere, and I feel like really icked out when I read them, but that's just part of the process. And like, yeah, just don't be afraid of making bad art. What that's just what you do as a writer, honestly. Yeah.
And then once you've written, how are you reaching your audience?
Yeah. So, you mean with like social media and that sort of thing?
Yeah, how do you know who your target audience is and how do you reach them?
Oh yeah, so with my target audience, it's mainly like women, queer people, and people of color. And I basically, with the Instagram, I use a different like frame of mind of that, because I'm kind of like always kind of thinking, I'm just always really worried that I'm alienating certain groups. Like for example, if I post too much queer stuff, like I worry that I'm alienating like, straight people, and when I post too much Asian stuff, I just worry that I'm alienating like non-Asian people. So with Instagram, it's more, I come in with a more like marketing point of view, and it's like yeah. But I honestly wish like I could just focus more on the art of it and just kind of post and write more about what I'm called to write about. But yeah, it's like tricky as like a creative in today's world, because like you always have to be thinking about like author brand and also like growth and the algorithm, and the Instagram algorithm is like, it's always just a battle to stay ahead of it, because yeah, it's hard basically. Oh yeah, does anyone have any questions about, like the process, or anything they're like stuck with in the writing process, or just anything pretty much? Or even a question about like, since it's Pride, even a question about like queer identity and like queerness, or just literally anything. Like, yeah.
Hello. I had a question about how you approach writing about experiences between same-sex attraction versus sex attraction. I find as a bisexual woman that that's something I really pay attention to in
Yeah.
writing, and I find very interesting. Do you find yourself writing about those two experiences differently or similarly, or using a different tone, things like that in your writing?
Oh, differently for sure, because the poems in my current book about male muses, they're actually older poems from a time when I was dating men. But then in more recent years, dating women, those poems are newer, and they kind of like, because I started off as a late in life queer woman because I came from a country where it's kind of illegal to be gay. So I didn't come into my sexuality until a later age, and that's why lots of my poems with female muses, they are more focused on the discovery point of view and the newness point of view. So that's basically how I go about it. But that's purely based on my personal life, pretty much. And with my new book, it's the whole thing is going to be based on a few female muse, and it basically goes deeper into relationships rather than discovery. So that's basically, yeah, to answer that, if that makes sense.
We have a question in the chat. What was your queer awakening?
Oh yeah, so I was actually I always thought I was a straight girl because growing up I just never saw like queer people in the media because it's like censored, and I didn't have queer friends, and there was actually one butch lesbian that I knew from my home country, and I just thought that I was really different from her, so I thought I could never be queer or lesbian because I didn't relate to her, and that's why it's so important to have just queer representation, honestly. And yeah, so basically when I moved abroad, I just started seeing lots of queer people around, and I made this queer friend, and I had this weird like thought experiment in my head, and I was like, in this group of people, who would I marry if I was forced to marry someone and have like that sort of like a genuine relationship? And then in that group, I said, oh, like that woman. And then I thought, how can I be saying that woman when I'm not gay, I'm straight? And then I actually thought, like, I started off thinking it was just that woman, it was just her. But then over time, I started realizing that no, it's not that just that woman. It's women in general. And I always felt really like awkward with men. For example, like when men would want to be affectionate to me, I always felt really cold, and I just thought that was my personality. But with women now, I started to realize that I'm just naturally really touchy and really affectionate and really loving and really soft. So that's like, it feels like almost coming back to myself, if that makes sense.
It really does. Thank you for sharing that. And we have a related question. Who are your queer icons, either poetry, poets or artists?
Yeah, so I love Andrea Gibson. So they are a famous queer poet, and I love all of their work. And they are a more they present in a different way from me, but I just, everything about their work, it really speaks to me, basically. So yeah, so Andrea Gibson. And also I love Glennon Doyle because I really relate to her. I really relate to her because her coming out story was like really similar to mine, because she was a femme lesbian and she was with a man and she always thought she was straight, and then she suddenly met this woman and she fell in love with her just instantly, and from then she basically became a lesbian. So and she's a femme lesbian also. So I feel like Glennon Doyle is someone who really speaks to me.
And then on a different track, how do you handle criticism from editors and outsiders who dislike or disagree with your messages? And
Well,
I think
that's a
your conclusion at the end of your book, your anti-acknowledgements, helps inform this, but tell us more.
Oh yeah, that's a really good question, actually, because I actually get a lot of like haters on Instagram, not necessarily for my work, but just for what I post, pretty much. And there are lots of people who do read my book and they don't really like it. And I feel who love, like, some people love it, some people don't really get it. And I feel like that's just part of the process as a writer or as an artist. I honestly feel that if you're being honest and you're being true to yourself and your art, there are going to be people who are not going to get it. And that's just natural, because I feel like not everyone can like you, because if everyone likes you, like, no one really likes you. That's my approach. That's how I see it. And so whenever someone says like, oh, your book is like, if they feel like that my book is not really to their taste, I don't feel offended at all, because I read certain books or I watch certain movies and they're not to my taste. So I feel like that's totally normal. Like, no one can like all your work, and not everyone can like all your work, pretty much. So that's how I see it. And yeah, that's how I see it. And in terms of editors, my editors have always been like really lovely and really supportive. And whenever they wanted to change something in my work, they've always been like super respectful and super lovely. So I haven't had an issue with that, pretty much.
Last comment about the poetry itself. Our book club really liked how you challenged the idea that we always have to emerge super triumphant from tough things.
Yeah.
That said, you are really crushing this, publishing poetry as your main gig thing, and your anti-acknowledgements addresses some of your journey there. I'd love for you to share from that and kind of conclude with how you feel about why you wrote that and what this means to you.
Yeah. So instead of writing a typical acknowledgements page, I wanted to be quirky and do an anti-acknowledgements page. That basically speaks to my journey as an artist and a writer. And as I mentioned earlier, I didn't always think that I could be an artist and a writer because growing up, lots of people would tell my parents that, oh, like she's going to grow up to be an artist because I was always really creative. And then my parents would instantly say like, no, she's going to be a lawyer because her grades are good. So it just never was an option for me. And I feel like this is really common among like Asians and people of color. And I'll read my anti-acknowledgements. Okay, so artists are too stupid to do anything else. That's what my dad always told me. And I actually put that on a t-shirt actually. So I was nearly too afraid to be a useless artist. In another life, I'm still at my full-time corporate job and I'm still the daughter he always wanted. This book would not be here without my self-belief. So thank you, past self. Thank you for knowing we could be more. Thank you for continuing to trust that we will make it even though we're not quite there yet. And thank you to my audience, you guys, for showing me that I'm not alone with my big squishy feelings. Thank you for every single comment, DM, and share. They all carried me here one by one. Even if I never make it, thanks for giving me the courage to try. And that's something I feel that's really important for artists and writers just starting out. It's like, don't be afraid to try because so many people are like, they're really scared to start. And procrastination is often fear. We often procrastinate because we often think we procrastinate because a task is really boring or difficult. And in many cases, we procrastinate out of fear, like the fear of failure, the fear of making bad art, and the fear of being seen. And another sneaky way we procrastinate is like getting stuck in the research phase. And research is like so important, but it's also so easy to get stuck there. So my writing tip for that is honestly to just do something, start something. And it may be terrible. Like lots of stuff I start is just terrible, but that's just normal because at least you're doing something and you kind of like learn as you go. So yeah, basically just start something.
Thank you so much. That's a really wonderful conclusion for this conversation. We've had a really great time with you.
Thank you so much.
Anyone can order this book from aseatathetablebooks.org. It's pinned in the chat there. And then this is one of the 4 sticker sheets we might send you if you order the book along with this one. I love this one. That's what I pulled from for mine. Love all these cakes. And one of them says, but I don't feel empowered. Amazing.
And this one says the gay agenda.
Yes. And the middle sticker there is one of my favorite pieces of art from your whole book. I really like that one and the poem it goes with. And then we'll also send one of these pins if you get this book from us. And that the pond one is amazing. I love both of the ones with the reflections. So those are all available if you order from us at aseatathetablebooks.org. And that stays true after this recording as long as we have them. So once this is posted, you can still order from us and we'll send you some treats. Suri, thank you so much for your time today and for this book, which has made a huge difference to all of us who have read it already.
Thank you so much for having me and for everyone who joined today. Like I really appreciate it. And my favorite part of like the process of being a writer is just like seeing everyone. And like, it's honestly my favorite thing when people come up to me and say they relate to my work, because that's my favorite thing about the whole process. So thank you so much, because it makes me feel less alone in my feelings also. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Suri. Have a great night or day, actually, where you are.
Yeah, it's morning.
Have a great day in Australia.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.